Well, I'm starting my Tuesday garden tour with this beautiful Sasanqua camellia that is blooming, and it is blooming quite early. I think this thing usually doesn't bloom until the end of November, but it has been blooming now for a couple weeks, and it is just, well, today's November 1st. But it is gorgeous, and the bees are all over it. It has a little bit more room now because I had another one right beside it, and I dug it out last year to move it, and it actually died, which I'm sad about. But now it has opened up the space for this beautiful camellia. And if you don't know, the Sasanquas are the ones that bloom first, and they bloom early. Oh, you can see the bee right there. They kind of bloom in the sort of mid to late fall usually. Again, I said they are a little early this year because of the cold we've had, and I think they're confused as to what's happening. They are beauty. This one is probably about 15 years old, I want to say. Something like that. Maybe 12 to 15 years old. And it gets mostly a little bit afternoon sun, but kind of definitely a part sun. But these camellias love our sandy, acidic soil. As you can see, it is underneath a canopy of trees and pines, and these pine needles drop just, throughout the year, keeping the base nice. Actually, it looks like the yellow jackets we're trying to get rid of that are flowing around on these. I had a problem with yellow jackets and getting rid of them, but everything else is looking pretty good, though. As you can see, we've got a fresh layer of pine needles down here. They are coming down now, and everything is looking a little bit worn out. My beauty berry bush here is at the end of its cycle. Most of the leaves are gone, and the berries mostly are starting to shrivel up, and the birds should be eating them. They usually come in around this time and grab them. We had so many this year, and you can see the weight of these still pulled down on these branches. So I'm gonna try to just prune these up a little bit. I noticed here that these bottle brush has really flushed out this year. I didn't get a super great bloom on them this past year, though I see one's actually blooming down here. Look at that beautiful red. Just starting to come into bloom. But I see this is the bloom. They bloom where these funky little seed pod things are. And then it has the new growth that's flushed out. And it looks like there's buds. See the little dark things there? I think I'm going to get a huge growth and bloom this winter. They usually bloom in like January and February, so it's a beautiful bush that just blooms at a time when there's nothing else happening. And a couple years ago, I got a really good bloom, and it looks like I'm going to get another one. Everything out here is looking all right. The coleus still looks good. The goldenrod that I dug up and planted from the side of the road, this one looks good. A couple of them look like they didn't make it. That's why I pulled like 5 or 6 of them. This one here looks like it's still okay. We'll see how many of those come back. I just wanted to have a little of that going on here. The lantana is still doing pretty well out here, and this was kind of a new garden bed that I just revived this spring, and I moved all of those Rudbeckias, black-eyed Susan, over here, and they did really well, along with the bee balm that finally bloomed, because that gets some really good afternoon sun, as I just don't have that many spots that get some sun. Branches are still falling from our storm. I keep finding more that fall down. These lantanas are the new ones that I got, and they are still doing really nicely and have grown a little bit. And there is my witch hazel which it says fall color. So I know it's small and it's like the first year, so I'm not getting a ton, but that is beautiful. And not only that, but I see all the buds, which I think I showed you last time. It's budding up. You know, I'm sure I'm not going to get tremendous amount, but I see quite a few buds on those. So I'm excited. And as this thing grows over the next few years, it's going to put on a nice little show because we don't have any fall color in the front yard. We have that beautiful Japanese maple in the back, which right now is gorgeous. But we don't have any fall color as everything here is pretty evergreen. So I'm excited for this to grow a little bit bigger and give us a little bit of that. And I do have my Japanese maple here, which eventually will grow, of course, and it's going to be red, I think, all the time. But I do see some red leaves. This one has suffered a little bit because it was planted and it was a rough season for it, but hopefully it's okay. And I'm sure as it grows, it will obviously fill out and give us a nice little show. Hubby came out and left, so I had to go talk to him for a minute. Everything else pretty much looks pretty similar from the last time I did the garden tour, which I think was like a week ago. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to pull out these red pentas. They look so good, though they are starting to get a little spent. I had an idea because I normally pull these out and put the pansies in. I think what I might do is pull them out and then just leave them in like little individual pots and set them in here. And then when it's cold, I can bring them in, and when it's warm, I can bring them out and then still be able to grow the pansies in there. And of course, these snapdragons, I'm just gonna stay because they just do great. I mean, they made it through the summer, which is the hard part, and they'll do great going forward. I just got to keep them trimmed, so we get like a full year. I literally got these last November, I want to say, and planted them in here. So it is now November, so that's a full year of blooms, and that's only because they're very much protected in the summer and getting light sun, or I don't know, they're just hardier for the heat now, the ones that I got here. The other thing that has come back is the this milkweed. Now, it was looking really full of aphids and not doing really well, and it has flushed back out. We finally got rain. It rained all weekend, 3 days, just a light, very misty rain, but we really need it, and I think everything has loved the rain, and it has definitely done wonders for some of these plants that were really needed a good soaking. So this has flushed back out and it looks really nice. Maybe a little bit late for monarchs, but the plant has grown. This was the first season. I bought this in the spring and it's done really well. So I think it's gonna die back and then come back. One thing that hasn't bloomed yet is this Mexican bush sage, and I actually thought it was dead, but it's come back the last couple years, and this year it's really come out nicely, but I'm not getting the blooms unless it's just too early. But I think usually around this time it blooms like a purple flume at the top, so we'll see if that thing is going to bloom. The hyacinth bean is basically done. There's one flower down here, but it's basically all finished. One thing that is blooming, this thing is still starting to come out, the lion's ears. It's got tons of blossoms, so it's going to be full. My salvia here is still doing really nicely, and I see I have some more dahlias. They have liked a little cooler weather and the rain. There's a few little flower head things coming up. I do have to get this crepe myrtle into the ground, so I've got to figure out where I'm going to put that. But one thing I'm super excited about is the morning glories that I planted in the summer are now blooming. And they never bloomed, and I thought, whatever. And since it cooled down and rained, those white ones are now all budding up and going to give me a nice little show, which is really nice because there was so much going on. They would have gotten lost in the shuffle probably. And my moonflower's finishing out. It's got just a few more buds, but this thing really went all summer long, and I will definitely plant that again, but it was a heavy vine, so I probably need to stake it up on something that can hold the weight a little bit better. My calendula is now blooming down there that I just got. And again, I think I showed you last time the little nasturtium that lasted all summer. I've never seen that before, but like it was very protected with a bunch of flowers over it. And I find that that happens. Oh, I see my poppies coming up. There's the ranunculus. There's a couple things down here. I think that everything is very confused by this cold October that we had. It was the coldest October I can remember. I mean, there were a few warm days, but I've never seen an October so cold. It was basically like swapped in the 60s and 50s most of the month. Very, very odd. And now like November is like 70, so who knows what's going to happen with these poor flowers. They're very confused. These are like bulbs are coming up. It looks like it's time for me to cut back and actually move that hibiscus. It got way too big, so I'm gonna probably cut it back, and when it drops the leaves a little bit, well, it will die all the way back, but I need to move it. And my Thanksgiving mums are coming out pretty early, I'd say, because normally like they come out for Thanksgiving, but like I said, it is the day after Halloween and they are just about to bust open. But I'm super glad. These I thought were dead or gone, and they're not. They all came back after a pretty hard me moving and pruning, and I've got them all over here. They can be a little invasive, and like I said, I yanked them all out, and then I thought, I'm done with these. I'm gonna move them somewhere else. But evidently they were still there, and maybe all of the fertilizer that I gave them a resurgence, and now I'm super glad they're here. But they can get leggy. I've tried to push them back with some stakes because they'll flop all over the sidewalk and makes for a hard time to walk. So I'm trying to keep them managed just by tying them up a little bit, and that should help keep them. They all seem to be pushed, so that's good, so we can move. And this is still in bloom. Gorgeous sweet autumn clematis that finally bloomed. I think this is probably its full blossom. It took a while, but it is such a long-lasting bloomer. Smells fantastic. As you can see over there, the red pentas are doing amazing, and the snapdragons all blooming. So I hate to pull them out. So I think I like my idea. Last year I dug them out of the ground and put them inside. These are already in a pot and they'll probably come in. I overwintered them and they did pretty well. And I do have a burning bush that I put in, but I think, oh, it is starting to get a little fall color. It's very small, so it's gonna take a few years, but they grow pretty fast. And I'm hoping that I'm gonna try to keep it manageable over here. I'm probably gonna have to reevaluate some of these plants that I put here because, you know, in spring everything is small and not here, like these two cigarette plants. And now they grew up pretty big, as well as those, never can think of the name of these things. Ligustrum. I did, you know, I did clip them back, but if I keep them small enough, I might be able to keep them here. And here is my beautiful pineapple sage flowering its head off. I love this plant. It smells amazing. You can use it in cooking. It is a sage, and it literally smells like a beautiful pineapple. In fact, I need to bring some in for my husband to cook with because he always asks me to bring stuff for him, though he'll never seem to come out and grab it himself. But they bloom now. A beautiful red flower the hummingbirds love. I haven't just seen the hummingbirds much, but then when I walked out the door, I heard one that was at my feeder and I scared him away. But I'm like, oh good, they are around. It's been kind of quiet and since this cold, but maybe the warmer now, they're gonna make a little resurgence back, and hopefully they didn't leave. So this is sort of a mid-fall garden. I'm happy with the flowers that I do have and some surprises. My alyssum has come back amazing. I think I showed you before. It loves a little cooler. It is definitely having a resurgence. Looks great. And even that hydrangea is still blooming. The one I moved over here. It's done a lot better than its mother plant. I'll show you the back. There's really nothing back there except that beautiful. In fact, I'll show you now. I wanted to stop and show you this. We put in our new fence panels right here because we took down the fence that was there and actually used the wood, which looked very much like this. We have to redo our gate. That's what the gate looks like, and that's what the fence looks like. So we took those boards down to use on my shed, and oh my gosh, there is an amazing spider web. I wonder if you can see. I just looked up. It's one of those huge banana spiders. But what I wanted to say here is that we got these panels in last weekend, and these are some volunteers from our old loquat tree that I took down last winter. Well, I took it down 2 years ago and then had to dig it up because it was coming down right in the front by our house. But I don't feel too bad because it has tons of little babies, and these have to be dug up because this will get quite large, and I moved them to the back. But these are the two remaining ones that I have seen that made it, and I'm gonna have to dig these up. But I want to show you this web, and hopefully I won't get into this web. It's way up there, but hopefully I can get to an angle. Back here there's nothing much to see because all we've been doing is working on, I don't know that you can see it. I don't think you can, but gosh, I wish you could because it is an amazing spider web. I'm holding the camera up there right to it, but I don't know that you can tell. It's huge, and it's one of those humongous spiders. It's like a perfect round web. I'll try to get it another time. If the sun comes out, it might show through there. But I wanted to show you our beautiful, probably killing all the spider, wow, mosquitoes back here. Thank you. That is something. This gorgeous Japanese maple, which again normally is in full color on Thanksgiving. In fact, we usually take our Thanksgiving picture out here in front of it because it's like the only thing we have. And I can see that the leaves are already starting to turn brown. So it is like 3 to 4 weeks, you know, ahead of its normal schedule, which is really weird, but it has been a very strange whole year, I would say, when it comes to gardening. Anyway, I just wanted to show you because these just kind of gets yellow. We don't get a lot of red. There's a little bit of red on here, but it is mostly like a beautiful yellow. I think I missed the height of it probably like a few days ago, but it is gorgeous. And here is my potting shed, which we've been working on. I know I've been showing you. I'll do a separate one for we didn't do a whole lot on it except for I finished some painting inside and we put the little window clips on so that we can gather. We've got some squirrels running around this morning, and ow, mosquitoes biting my hand. I'm so excited to see this thing blooming, my tea tree. This is one of the ones that we moved in the February, and it's been sitting here all summer, kind of not having many leaves on it, and I know it just takes a little while to kind of get going, and when I see the blooms, I know that it's good, and so it smells so fantastic. I've got some blossoms coming and some new leaves, so I know it's going to bounce back. These move very well, and I can look over here and see on the my big camellia here, the one that blooms like January and February, that it's all budding up. I've got some buds here. I lost a lot of limbs on this last year in that weird ice storm we had. I'm gonna get myself into another web. These ginger lilies too, I moved these last year around the same time. I might have moved these in the fall, but they have bloomed several times. I think they're confused too. They are fantastic, and I made like a little, oh, my dogs decided to join me. I had like a little fence with them over here. They do die back, so in the winter and spring they won't be here, but then they return. And they've bloomed several times. Some of these, I don't know how great these are doing. It was a rough season. We moved this azalea, but there still is, looks like there's some leaves on it, and so hopefully that one won't die. It was a rough season for every plant, and then some of the new ones that we moved, you know, they had their work cut out for them. There's really not a whole lot over here. I haven't done much back here because I've been really just working on the shed and the front yard. But this little woodland garden is coming along. It looks kind of sad at the moment, but it wasn't here just 2 seasons ago. I have some ginger lilies here that just finished blooming, and the mulberry tree has done really well, and I had to actually really cut it back. It was getting very tall. And it looks like we might get a little fall color from this as it grows. But there's not a whole lot happening over here. I'll probably need to do some more planning for this garden, and I certainly will, because now that I've got the potting shed out here, I'm gonna want to really, you know, fill in this whole area back here. So, you know, so it's out of sight, it's out of mind. I mean, the bones are here. We have a beautiful, you know, structure here with the meditation garden, our patio, and everything. It's just, I didn't give it the TLC this year because we've spent all of our time working on the shed, or I was in that front garden getting all of that reestablished, right? We can only do so much, but I have this whole empty space here beside the shed that I will probably end up doing a little, I was thinking like a wildflower garden. So we'll see what comes of that. And there you go. I step back out here because you can probably see the big, I think you can see it there, the web. If you can look right in the middle there, there's some leaves, and then there's a huge spider. That's as far as I can go on my camera, but there they are. There he is. Whatever. It's quite a spider. Those are kind of scary looking, but they're pretty neat, and they make their webs this time of year, and they're something. One extra little thing I wanted to show you are these beautiful little cherry trees that bloom. They are blooming at their right time. They usually bloom October and November. I had one at the bottom of the driveway on each side. This one is the one that is still here. The one on the other side died, and this one has looked pretty rough, and we have cut it back, and it's starting to kind of come back a little bit. You can see like the old trunk down in there. Wasn't a huge tree, but it was, you know, it was old, I guess. And I don't know the name. I think I found the name of this one time. It blooms really early, and but it had babies, which I gave to the neighbor, and she's got a couple of them, and she gave us one last year, which we put over here on the other side where the old one was, or close to it, and it's actually has some blooms on it, so I know it's doing well. It's really tiny, but it is blooming. So you can see like the old crusty like wood, which is kind of like dead, but the new wood is really nice, and it has the blooms on it. I think it's just an older variety that's, you know, I'm sure they've improved them over the years, but I wanted to let you see that little one. Even those little tiny ones can have blooms on them, and I know it's still there and healthy, and I guess eventually it will grow up to meet its other counterpart.